Check it out. Thursdays, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Noon Eastern. A healthy dose of Jersey Girl wisdom. Live with revjerseygirl. Sponsored by New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Greetings, beloved. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I want to tell you right off, if you're here today because you thought that Patricia Watson was going to be with us today, I have to tell you that she's not. We're going to have to get her on another day. There was a delay in the technology that was just more than we could work with. But I'm here for you, and I'll bring to you whatever God wants me to bring to you, because right now, the only way this is going to work if I get out of the way, which I can easily do. So, Michelle Wadleigh here, revjerseygirl, glad to have you. And I do have some things that I want to chat with you about, but again, different than normal. I'm going to start today with a spiritual mind treatment because, like so many of my colleagues on here, God, I love to speak the word, and I love to speak the word in the way that a practicing metaphysician and a practitioner of science of mind does. And we each do it a little differently, and it's all good. But join me, if you will. Join me right now, if you will, if you want to. Close your eyes or not, but allow yourself to get quiet inside. And just feel that presence that you can only sense when you stop and when you listen. There is a power and a presence and a love. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And as I sit here with this breeze blowing and the birds singing and the sounds of nature all around, I recognize it is God as each of these things. It is God as you. It is God as me. And right now, I speak this word for everyone listening now and in the future. And I know that life is working. Life is working on your behalf now. I declare for you, I declare that life is in your favor, that spirit is working in your favor, that anything that appears to be in the way is removed gently and so lovingly. And you are left standing, basking in the light and the love and the brilliance of the one where all of life works. where you get to experience the realization of health and wholeness and prosperity and good. So as we whisper a yes, an internal yes, we activate this beautiful law in, through, and as each one of us. Today is good and so very good. Know that I believe in you. I believe in where the presence resides in you. And with this, I surrender this word to love, to law, and to the awe of life. And so it is. It is so good. Oh, there's our beloved Patricia. We'll get you here, Patricia. We will make sure that it works. We will make sure. We will just get you on a Thursday when all the stars align, even the technology stars. So good morning, and for those of you who are here with me today, I have a couple things I do want to talk to you about, and I have probably mentioned it before on the show, but it is something that is really coming alive more and more for me as a teacher, as a coach, as a minister, as a human, as Michelle. I am fully, I am becoming fully aware of just how much of my life, where there's strain, where there's stress, it is because of my judgment. It is because of how I judge whatever I'm looking at, or the person I'm dealing with, or the situation. My pain, my suffering, the limitations of my life is completely an outgrowth of how I judge. Now, I've been paying attention to this for a long time, but I want to bring it out even more. Hello, beloveds. I want to bring it out even more because I have a new solution. Because, just to tell somebody, stop judging, it's not that easy because it's ingrained in us. I mean, face it, you wake up in the morning, you make a judgment call about, even what socks to put on or what clothes to put on. We're not talking about that. And yes, we have to make discernment. And if you are in leadership, you have to make discernment and you have to choose to be in relationship with some people or not. Because part of being a really responsible spiritual being is about practicing good self-care, and good self-care is also about boundaries. Healthy, healthy, healthy boundaries. Please know it is always okay to not want to be in relationship with certain people. There's no problem with that. But there are places where and I'm looking at my world now so much closer, just so much more closely. And I look, and when I feel the strain of something, I realize that strain was preceding by me having a judgment. And let's tie that judgment very closely to expectation. When I expect someone to be a certain way, howdy, Wayne. When I expect someone to behave in a certain way, I am immediately setting that person up for failure, but more so, I'm setting them up for failure with where they live inside of me. So what if you and I took on a practice of wonderment? What if we were in complete wonderment about life and ceased that habit of judging and replaced it, though, with wondering? So it would look like this. Uh, your neighbor takes down a fence that's been between your yards for decades, and instead of being mad, instead of being judgmental, because it's going to come up, the first thing you do, you go, I wonder why he did that. Or when someone reacts to something you say, instead of saying, what the hell sorry, what are they reacting to? What is going on with them? Instead of that, we say, huh, I wonder why they're so upset. What if you, and you're hearing your own mind, judge yourself, and instead of judging yourself, you turned it into, well, I wonder why that's always so hard for me. Can you get a sense of how much lighter life is when we approach it with wonder instead of with judgment? Can you see that right away? I mean, it's really a beautiful practice. It can it can actually become wonderment, or being in a state of wonder can become another spiritual practice, because it gives you an inroad to new possibility. I don't know about you, but in my life, it's taken me a long time. It's taken me a fairly long time to get here and to get to the place where I I just stopped needing something to be what it's not. And I learned to accept what is as it is without wants and demands and expectations, because all that stuff sets me up for failure. So before we go on, I want to take a moment and once again ask you to please, if you find any value in this show, in any of the shows, and all the prayer shows and the meditation shows and the entertainment shows like Spirit Says Sing on Saturday night, or anything in any of the shows, please, please donate to this radio show. It is a good and worthy recipient of your money. And I want you to know that I never suggest that someone give to some place unless I of myself are also giving. So I give personally, and my community values this radio station so much, we give it from the radio station. And I want to call out everybody who has a show. If you have a show and you are featured here, then put this radio show on your own giving, because they deserve it. Okay. Now, can I say that without expectation? Can I say that without judgment? Yep, I actually can. So let's take this. Let's watch this. Let's watch this. Yes, it is lovely. And Martha is in my coaching program. You're going to hear a lot about that, Martha, especially using that with clients. And so here's what we're saying. We're saying life happens, right? Life happens. Of course it does. But it is what we do with it next that creates our experience. Whether you realize that or not, it's what actually happens next that makes the difference. So if life happens and you watch it and you observe it and you go, huh, look at that. That person just dropped my favorite vase and broke it on the floor. Well, that's one experience. But if you, oop, there's a bug crawling on me and I can see it on the show. I'm outside today. But if you turn that into judgment, okay, now you're going to have an experience of upset and criticism and all of that. Okay, so that's one aspect of it. Now you can begin to wonder, huh, I wonder why they weren't more careful. What happened? Okay, that backs you up even a little bit more from attachment and from thinking some things should be different than what it is. But here's something else. And I got to tell you, this is a gift of being my age. For those of us who are of an age where we've lived a lot of our lives and we've had children and now we're having grandchildren, or maybe are even older than that, there is a beauty that comes. I gotta say, There is a beauty that comes, a wisdom that comes that cannot be gotten to before that moment. You cannot force wisdom. And so let me let you in on what I'm working on. With such a practice of non-judgment and being in wonderment, I have been really, really dedicated. And so I'll give, my sons are a really easy example because they're in my life all the time and I'm a very involved mom. So sometimes there are things that they might do, that I think, but what I've been turning that into, mostly when I'm alone or in the car driving, is I turn it into, what if I just removed my opinion? What if I just removed my opinion? Sorry, from what's going on. Can you get that? What if you, in the middle of what's going on, instead of going down the road of that opinion as it pulls you, because sometimes our human conditioning, and because we haven't questioned it soon enough, sometimes it just pulls us down and we just go with it. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes we think we're right. What would happen if every time you decided or you attempted to have a judgment and an opinion or to make somebody wrong, even slightly, what if you just said to yourself, can I just let them go? Can I just love them? Can I just love them? So I have been practicing this. I have been diligent. I have used it with my sons, which is easy. They're my family. I'm dedicated to always being as clean with my family as possible. But I've also been using it with my beloved, the general contractor who's working on my home, who is giving me lots of opportunity to practice. And you might think to yourself, well, why would I even bother? Why would I bother with somebody like a general contractor, somebody who's a professional? And I'm going to tell you why. Because that person, while I'm engaged with him, lives inside of me. See, you and I carry the weight of all this. We are never free. We are never free from the judgment. We are not free from our expectation. We are not free of our opinions. They land in us and they carry weight. Now, I have numerous coaching clients that I work with. So what I do before they start, I start coaching with them. I always give them an assignment for no less than 1 week prior to our first session. I have them do this practice, and you might want to take this on. I have them do this practice of writing down, taking a pad, a journal, or something, and writing down, without judging it, without judging the judging, writing down all the judgments that they make about themselves or others. And I beg them to not try to do spiritual bypass and not to try to impress me with how spiritual they are. When they come to me with this list filled out, all I want to hear from them is their judgments and how much they were like attached to it and all of that stuff, because I want them to feel the impact of their mind. You see, if you and I stay present to the impact of our mind, to the impact of our feelings, I have news for you. You would change your mind more quickly if you recognized that there is no thing outside of you, and even the opinion about another, even though it's about another, it is not outside of you. And so when I recognize that, and I become absolutely dedicated to cleaning that up. With every little bit of cleaning that up, I become freer. Does this make sense? If you are watching me and there's any comment you want to make or question about the process, I'd love for you to share, and Diego will capture that and put it on the scroll. I, and here's the thing, I don't even mean this to sound, excuse me, outside, lots of pollen in the air, I must tell you. Um there I don't even mean for this to sound so esoteric. I don't even mean for it to sound so esoteric, because there are Eastern teachings that would talk about this for hours upon hours, and they break it down in little pieces. I'm coming to you from a very pragmatic point of view, from a metaphysical, even mental health point of view. A mind that is busy and committed to judgment, a mind that's busy and committed to being right and righteous, is not a mind that can be available to the presence of love as much as you might want to be. So every time I surrender, every time I surrender and choose to hand over my opinion instead to being in the presence of love and to acceptance and to compassion, every time my world gets lighter and my world gets easier. So the good news is, if you are somebody in my world, you know now what's going on inside of me. You know that I hold you in this place of light and love. And Patricia says total sense, especially about paying attention to my judgments. Remove my opinion from what is going on. I also love the practice of wonderment. Yeah. Wonderment is wonderful. It's wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Um and it's freeing. And here's the thing too. So if you are a coach, if you're somebody you're a coach, if you're a practitioner and you're listening, if you have influence over people in your life, and if these are people that are willing to listen to you, that you engage as an influencer, invite them to practice that, because this is what I've seen with my clients. The second I say it to them and I explain, there's a lightness, a beautiful lightness that comes. It's almost immediate because it's a different mindset. The If we are all energy, and we are, then the energy of being judgmental and severe, especially if we're severe in our judgment, the energy of being severe and judgmental and opinionated is different energy and cannot coexist with the energy of being loving, accepting, hopeful. They cannot coexist. So you must choose. You must choose. I mean, this morning, our beloved Patricia, who, was supposed to be on the show this morning, we all had choices. We all had choices the second the technology started going bad. We could decide to bitch, moan, complain, find fault, what's wrong, oh my God, and make the whole thing a drama. And none of us did that. We looked at what was happening. My beloved producer Diego did everything he could to walk her through it, and we just didn't have, or he didn't have an answer. I never would have had an answer, because that's not me. And so we made our attempt, and then I had to call it. And Patricia was plugged in, and she was fine, and Diego was fine, and I was fine. But you see, in another world, in another mindset of other people, that could have been one royal fussy pain in the bazooka, right? Do you get that? So when we choose to accept and allow and to be in that flow, and ease comes. and absolute ease comes. And I'll go back to my general contractor who's working on my house. Every day I have to choose to be present. God bless this man. God bless him. And I know he wants to be a good man, and I know he wants to do a good job. And I also know that sometimes he's the victim of his conditioning. He is. There are people all around us that are unaware that they have a choice. I bet you know somebody like that. I bet you know somebody. Matter of fact, last week I went to my sister and my brother-in-law. Now, when I say brother-in-law, it sounds so trite. This is a man that was in my family longer than I was because he married my sister. They had a child, and then I was born. I was the last of seven, one of those Irish families. And what happened was when he passed away, they passed away a week from each other. But because of COVID, we couldn't have a memorial service. So last week we finally had the memorial service, and I got to see family members and nieces and great nieces that I haven't seen in a long time. And let me tell you what I saw. I saw people in a lot of pain. I saw a lot of family members that don't know that they have a choice about the way they react, the way they name things, the way they hold things in their heart. It was it was mildly painful. Now it wasn't painful in, that I was so distressed. I was sad though. But I'll tell you what it has done for me. I am absolutely determined to figure out how I can be of influence with this part of my family. Now, they have to want it. I can't force it. But where this begins, it begins in me not judging them for the way they are. I ask you, who are you judging in your life? Now, you might not think of it as a judgment. You just might look at them and, I don't know, maybe you do recognize it as a judgment. But who in your family specifically do you hold in a way that's limiting? And might you now be willing to hold them harmlessly? What if we absolutely practice, do no harm? And part of that is by monitoring our expectations, by being in a state of wonderment, by choosing to say to yourself when you see behavior or stuff, and just say to yourself, oh, let me just leave them the hell alone. Let me just leave them alone. Leave them alone. They don't need my judgment. What if that's how you and I showed up? Now, I'm going to tell you, this is Jersey girl wisdom. I am born and bred here in this lovely state. And this might not sound like the result of somebody who was reared here, but it is. We are people in this state of strong opinions, but we are also people who are very dedicated and loyal. And so if my fellow New Jersey people watching now or later, if you are loyal, let us be loyal in a way where where our mind is a safe passage for individuals. Let us let us lead the way. Matter of fact, anyone listening here, let us lead the way into life by being the one that carries the state of being. Imagine how much more beautiful the world could be if you and I showed up consistently in this way. Because one of the other things, I want to make a point of this too. One of the other things is that when you choose not to react to something and someone outside of you and whoever you're engaged with witnesses you not reacting, something happens to them. Something happens to them. They see that your reaction or a new way of being is possible. So you don't have to try to go out and fix the world. You could just be so present in this essence that by purely witnessing you, something changes. And yeah, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say. My hope and desire for everyone that I meet is that I bring nothing but love into the room. For a long time, while we were while we were physically meeting on Sundays with my spiritual community, the first thing I said, well, years ago, for years, I said, today is the most glorious day of my life. I mean, you might even want to try that on. Waking up and just saying, today is the most glorious day of my life as an affirmation. But then after a while, I turned it into, I am the place where love resides. And then I began to convert that, although I didn't say it. But when you think about it, it's my I am that is the place where love resides. And if I stay dedicated to being that place where love resides, all is good. All is good. So join me if you will. Join me in being that place where love resides. Please let us be the place where life transforms, not the with the big L, but where the yes, that was my statement from last week, accepting ourselves as we are and as we are not. Absolutely. You and I have what it takes. There is, yes, there is no private good. Hear me. There is no private good. When the way you go, the way the essence goes in you, through you, so goes everyone else. The more we grow, the more we grow together, whether we realize it or not. So stay plugged into this beautiful radio station, this New Thought station. It is delivering amazing messages. If you will share this talk today with your friends and family on Facebook. Share it everywhere. Let us spread the word. Let us be the word. Let us be as I say to my coaches, let us be the product. The one thing I know about the people in my coaching program is we drive the message home that they have to be the product. It's not about being the voice of it and not try to, act like we know everything. It must be. It must be an internal job. Let you and I be that example. And hopefully you'll say amen to that and join me. And let us have a glorious day. Um, Actually, I have another thought that I just want to share. And I have friends I know that are, and I'll say this very strongly, dead set against celebrating Memorial Day weekend. I get that. But I had a brother I lost in Vietnam. My brother didn't want to be there. He said he didn't want to be there. He verbalized that loud. But he was there. And he lost his life there. And what happened was, though, the way he lost his life, back in the day, the Vietnamese, they would steal dog tags. So my brother's body was taken, and they did not know that he died there. The Army and the FBI for decades, 3 decades, accused my brother of being AWOL. And on occasion, we'd have the FBI literally try to track down my brother in my home. I remember that happening at least on 2 occasions while my parents were still alive. So about 20 years ago, I get a phone call from the Army. And once 9/11 happened and they started having that DNA testing, they started testing many things, because what they did back in the day, they didn't have the technology to identify bodies. So my brother's body was taken to a warehouse in Hawaii, And there might still be some unidentified people there today. I don't know. And so what happened was they called me and they said they suspected that they might have finally identified my brother. So they had to come and they take my blood, and they took the blood of my other living brother at the time. And it took 6 months. It wasn't like the movies. It took 6 months to take this to have this test done. And sure enough, they found out that that body that they were testing was not my brother's. But what happened was my brother had been misidentified and buried in another man's grave for about 35 years. I'm going to put his, just in case you have any interest, I'm going to put his name in here so that Diego can put it up on the screen in case you want. I'm one of those people. I love researching things like this. So maybe Diego will put his name across the scroll. And so I am not for war. I'm not for the military. And I think it's absolutely, completely obscene and gross that we spend more money on the military than we do feeding our people and the infrastructure of this country. Gross. That's how strongly I feel about it. But what I know is that my brother didn't want to go. And I know there were other people who didn't want to go. And yet their lives were lost. So on this Memorial Day, I'm not there to celebrate war, but I am there to honor the young men, the young women who gave their lives. And back in the day, not willingly, because some of you are too young to remember the draft, but people were drafted. And so I ask you just to have a moment this weekend in honoring those who left, and not for the reasons that we think they did. I will always miss him. And if you happen to be someone who looks up that story, you'll see that he was found, I think it was 30 some odd years later, and he is now on the Vietnam Wall in Washington and in Jersey City, and I'm grateful for that. We had a full military burial for him in Arlington Cemetery. And I mean, the Army, I say one thing. The Army didn't have to tell us. We weren't actively looking. They did the right thing. They brought my whole family together, and they brought us down to Washington, and they put us up, and they gave him that burial. I could have died not knowing that, which would have broken my heart, because I knew he wasn't a coward the way they were holding him. And so it was a wonderment about what happened to him. But now I know. So my love to you this weekend. I don't know what the weather's going to entail wherever you are, but at least here in this country, I know you come to us from other countries on this show, but at least in this country, may you have a moment of realizing that there were lives lost, maybe not for the right reason, but they're still lost, and there are people that are still grieving those lost lives. So my big love to you today. Please join me next week. Next week, I have a special, actually, I'm not sure who's coming next week. There's a couple of different options. I'm bringing you all sorts of different people, but as the weeks come. Big love to you. Big love to you. Be well. Be happy. Be brilliant. See you next week. Bye.
Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? perhaps a desire to learn. Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.